Order, and we will momentarily go at ease. With clerk opening the roll. Clerk can close the roll. Quorum is present. And we'll ask Delegate Sullivan, House Bill 896.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you very much. Good to be with you all this morning. I have a couple line amendments, Mr. Chair.
We have some amendments. Do I have a motion on the amendments?
No, second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Without objection, the amendments are before us. Delegate Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in 2020, this body passed Virginia's red flag law and joined what are now 22 states that have these life-saving procedures. It's a process whereby judges can determine whether someone's a threat to themselves or others and should lose their gun for a set period, a finite period of time. It's been enormously successful. It's been used widely here in Virginia, all across the Commonwealth, from Virginia Beach to Bristol, Fairfax, Fauquier, Greene, Culpeper, Dinwiddie. 93 localities have had risk orders issued over the course of the last 5 years. But, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, we could be doing more. The fact is that not enough people, not enough citizens of Virginia, not enough professionals in Virginia know about this life-saving option. Members of the public and even professionals like mental health providers and even law enforcement just don't know that the process exists. I will tell you that we sent a similar bill to the governor 2 years ago, and it was vetoed. And I want to read you a little bit of his veto message. What he said was he didn't like the training because he said it duplicates existing training at DCJS to various constituent groups of in the Commonwealth upon request. And I can tell you, after I dug into this, what I found is that there is someone at DCJS capable of doing training on red flag laws, but the instructions to this individual were, you can answer your phone if someone calls you to ask about it, but you can't dial your phone to go out and meet with people and talk to professionals or go to gatherings. So you can answer, but you can't dial. What 896 does, Mr. Chair, is directs DCJS to create a risk order training program with outreach to law enforcement. We know there are there's law enforcement that doesn't know about this. It would do some things to make sure that law enforcement, when they become law enforcement officers, are trained in this, and we think could make this an even more effective tool in Virginia to save lives. I'll take your questions, Mr. Chair. I have a brilliant young man, a UVA law student named Joe Vu, has helped me on this bill and another one I'm doing, who has some other remarks he can give either as a witness or at your pleasure.
We welcome him to come up and briefly give his testimony.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Joe Vu, and I'm a student in the State and Local Government Policy Clinic at the University of Virginia School of Law. The views that I'm expressing today are my own. As you heard from Delegate Sullivan, Virginia's Substantial Risk Order, or SRO law, has saved lives, but has been used inconsistently across the Commonwealth. HB 896 will address these uneven outcomes by promoting awareness and understanding of the law as well as best practices. It does this in two important ways. First, the bill directs the Department of Criminal Justice Services to establish training standards for law enforcement related to the proper usage and implementation of SROs, as well as best practices, and publish model policies for the SRO process. Second, HB 896 directs the Department of Criminal Justice to establish an SRO training program. To create layers of understanding and awareness of this valuable life-saving tool, The program will train both law enforcement agencies and other important people who may be involved with the SRO process, such as mental health professionals, emergency healthcare providers, school personnel, and other public institutions throughout the Commonwealth. This training will provide, among other things, guidance on proper procedures to be followed during the SRO process, the circumstances under which SROs can be used, and the benefits that SROs can provide to public safety. In short, HB 896 will help ensure that relevant professionals both understand the law and its purpose and know how to use it to help prevent avoidable tragedies. For these reasons and those provided by Delegate Sullivan and others who may testify, I hope that you will support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony and good work on the bill, working with Delegate Sullivan. Hopefully it wasn't too difficult to work with.
Don't answer that.
No, the bill is back before the committee. Delegate Webert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, question for the patron.
Delegate Webert.
Thank you. In the gentleman's testimony and also in yours, the statement that there has been an uneven use of substantial risk orders. I'm not going to use SRO because to me that's school resource officer. Can you give an example of a locality that has an uneven use of substantial risk orders?
Well, I can tell you, as I think, Mr. Chair, in answer to the delegate's question, there are some localities where it's never been used. Now, it's hard to know whether exactly what that reason is, but we have more than 30 localities where it's never been used. We have some localities where it's been used rather frequently. We have some localities where it's been used a few times, but very infrequently, which to me translates into uneven. And we know there are some sad stories out there. One that happened in Crozade just a little less than a year ago, where a mass shooting took place, and the family had tried to be getting help, and I'll just say there wasn't an awareness of this option. The option was not used, and a tragedy occurred. So that's why I'm bringing the bill, Mr. Chair, to make sure that no opportunities to use this where it's proper will slip through the cracks.
Thank you, Delegate Sullivan. Now we'll turn to in-person testimony. Those looking to speak in favor of House Bill 896, please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Lori Haas. I work at the Center for Gun Violence Solutions at Johns Hopkins. We have an ERPO Resource Center, which is a project with the DOJ, and we do these trainings across the country. It is clear that more training is needed in the Commonwealth, and while DCJS has a great program and they make it available, it is not used enough. I have myself been able to participate and facilitate some trainings across the Commonwealth, and law enforcement agencies and prosecutors welcome the training. They're like, we're so glad you're here. We need this. We need to understand better. We need to understand the process. We want to have a tool available in our toolbox when we come across a situation where a person is in crisis. This is a good bill. It fills a gap in the Commonwealth, and we hope you'll pass the bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Those wishing to speak in opposition of the bill in person, come forward. Now we will turn online. No one is online. The bill is back before the committee, and should the committee act favorably, the bill would be referred to appropriations as amended. Delegate Siebold.
Mr. Chair, I move to report as amended and refer to appropriations.
Motion is made and properly seconded to report as amended and referred House Bill 896 to appropriations. Members, please cast your vote. Clerk shall close the roll. Bill reports and refers 5-2. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you. Delegate Hope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have House Bill 318, and I do have a substitute.
All right, we have 318. So this is a little bit of a larger bill. Could you explain to us just a tiny bit real quick the substitute difference, and then we'll adopt it?
The substitute difference makes some minor tweaks, technical tweaks. We worked with the parole board to get the correct number of parole members, parole board members that we wanted to expand, some language about meaningful release, sort of technical information there to what's a meaningful opportunity for juveniles to get released. I mean, I can walk through the bill because it's exactly what's in the bill, and so.
Great. So we'll bring the substitute before us.
Move the substitute.
Motion been made, properly seconded. Without objection, the substitute is before us. Delegate Hope.
All right, so this United States Supreme Court has said that for juveniles, states need to provide an opportunity for meaningful release for parole, meaningful opportunity for release. And I say that in quotes because that's the words of the Supreme Court. And so what Virginia is doing here with this bill is establishing clear codified parameters for juvenile parole hearings. It doesn't mean that juveniles get out. We're talking about people that have convicted a very serious crime as juvenile, they spent time in juvenile detention, but then been transferred to the adult prison system and have been there for a number of years. And so giving them a meaningful opportunity for parole is under the Supreme Court decisions. In Virginia, this will affect about 240 juveniles that are in this situation right now, that are in our U.S. prisons, committed a crime, maybe 15, 16 years old, have spent numerous years, maybe decades in the system, and have an opportunity to go for parole. The bill also clarifies that we're expanding the parole board from 5 to 11, at least 11 members of the parole board. It professionalizes the parole board as well, too, making sure that people have the right experience with attorneys, criminal justice, people in other types of areas of law enforcement to be on the board. So it professionalizes them. It also staggers the term as well. So we're trying to, in addition to give opportunity for parole for juveniles, it also makes these more governance changes to make sure that the parole board is consistent and they have staggered terms, and there's not a deviation from administration to administration. It clarifies language surrounding existing code for public hearings and discovery. It requires the parole board to give recommendations, and this really is the meat of the bill under 53.1-154.2 for give recommendations for improvement. 9 states already do this: Arizona, Arkansas, California, Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, Nevada, Tennessee, West Virginia. So it's really all over the map, red states, blue states, explicitly mention recommendations and advice for future hearings. In Nevada, in their statute, the board shall provide specific recommendations of the board to improve the possibility of granting parole for the next time the prisoner is considered. In Tennessee, their statute says the board must state in writing the reason for declining parole and how the inmate can improve the inmate's chance of being released and parole in the future. The bill has a delayed enactment as well until July of 2028, so it's a 2-year delayed enactment so that all this can get ramped up. We can put our regulations in place. The parole board can adopt those regulations and those guidances as well to give them time to do that. So that's what the bill does. I mean, again, the objective is to give meaningful release. I think Virginia is one of the few states that doesn't do this for juveniles. And then it also professionalizes the Virginia Parole Board for the future. And again, just to reiterate, this is a 2-year enactment. It takes 2 years before we get to this place. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Delegate Hope. What we will be doing is hearing testimony and asking questions on both similar bills. We've got, I know he's not in the room, and if he makes it, we're going to entertain any thoughts that he has as well. But Delegate Williams has House Bill 318, which is extremely similar in nature. Yours goes further and talks about the juveniles. But I would like to take testimony for both. So first, let's turn to members of the committee. Delegate Weber.
Yeah. Question for the patron, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Weber.
All right. So I apologize. I'm a little uneducated. It's been a while since I've been on this committee. So
welcome.
Can you educate me as to what the current structure is of the parole board?
Mr. Chairman, there are, under statute, there's 5 members on the parole board right now. They're appointed by the governor. They're subject to confirmation by the General Assembly, and I'm just looking at the statute right now. This would expand the parole board, but also give the General Assembly more say. Gives a little bit power to the General Assembly, yay for the General Assembly to have a little bit more power to make such appointments. There's not requirement for professionalizing the parole board, and so this gives that, could be, the governor could just pick their friends to be on the parole board. We want people that are on parole board to have some background and some experience, and I think that we've experienced, issues with that over the years. So I think this, you can look at this as more of governance for our parole board, but also giving the General Assembly more power, more say-so in the makeup of the parole board.
One more question.
Delegate
Mr. Chair.
Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so you mentioned, I guess in regards to another portion of the bill that deals with juveniles. And you mentioned it, I think it was juveniles that have committed pretty, I guess, heinous crimes that have aged into the adult population, and this is what one of the aspects that the parole board deals with. What is an example of what some of these then juveniles, now adults, have done, and how, I guess, is it part of their sentence when they get, after 20 years or something, they come before the parole board? How does that work?
Mr. Chairman, it has been a while since you've been on this committee. Whenever you get to prison, it's a felony. And so you're committing a felony. Adults and juveniles are there for serious crimes.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Weber.
Okay. We have various levels of felonies. What would be an example of some of those crimes?
Robbery, murder.
Thank you, Delegate Hope. We're going to turn to testimony, and if there are further questions from the committee, we'll definitely entertain them, but let's make sure we bring up our expert witnesses as well. Those in person wishing to speak to either bill, the bill before us, Delegate Williams' bill, please come forward. If you're wishing to speak in favor of the bill, we will put a minute for each. We'll do 5 minutes each side, please. So come forward. Please keep your testimony brief if you can. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Colleen Maxwell, a staff member of the Virginia Parole Board. I can take no position on this bill. I did want to provide some factual information. This bill does provide those staggered terms so that we are not in a position as we are right now. We currently have one full-time board member who has been reappointed, and our chair was temporarily reappointed. So currently, anybody who is eligible for parole and has received a recommendation for parole, we are at a standstill. Regarding the juvenile portion of the bill, currently, juveniles who are incarcerated within the adult population, they were committed the crime as a juvenile and now are in the adult population. They are eligible if they have been sentenced to life or multiple felonies that equate to a sentence of more than 20 years. And once they have reached that 20-year mark, they are eligible for juvenile parole. But our tool that we use, this expands that tool to provide additional mitigating factors. So those mitigating factors they go into more depth. A lot of the information very similar to a juvenile in the juvenile justice system, a social history investigation, so that there is more relevance placed on what was happening in that young person's life. So I'm happy to answer any other technical questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bring you back up if we have any. Thank you so much.
My name is Hannah Potts with Up to Date Inside Virginia. We support this bill. Speaking specifically to the juvenile factors, those are based on the Supreme Court decision, which judges currently, if they are giving a sentence to somebody who committed a crime as a juvenile, they have to consider those factors. People prior to the Supreme Court decision in 2012, those factors did not have to be considered. And so this parole board is the only vehicle through which that can be considered now, since they would not be eligible to seek resentencing in order to get a parole hearing. A joint report found that for 11 of the 17 years between 1985 and 2001, juveniles convicted of murder were more likely than adults to receive life without parole sentences. As demonstrated by the U.S. Supreme Court's 2012 and 16 decisions, the nation has recognized that juveniles differ from adults in maturity, brain development, and capacity for change. HB 318 does not expand parole eligibility. It simply ensures that individuals who are already eligible for juvenile parole hearings receive hearings that meet constitutional requirements, just as judges must do today when sentencing a juvenile. That means considering the mitigating factors of youth and evaluating demonstrated maturity and rehabilitation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Sean Winneto speaking on behalf of the Humanization Project. I want to speak just specifically to the board expansion piece. That's something that we've been sort of working on for a couple of years. I'll note that it sort of is the origin is in former Attorney General Miares' recommendations to the parole board. There was a report with a lot of recommendations made by the Attorney General. One of them was expanding. And the reason for that is over the next several years, 12,353 people are going to be aging into geriatric parole eligibility. The board needs the capacity. They quite simply can't handle handle the caseload with the capacity that they have in place right now. So that's really the onus for the expansion. We also did want to try and make sure that no one blue wave or one red wave captured the entire board. That's why we staggered the appointments. Members of this committee from the year before might remember that we did sort of term limit board members to 4 years. So they'll be turning over sort of every cycle there. So that's the reason for the expansion, and hope you'll support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Rasool, members of the committee, Taj Manhaft, just speaking as somebody who has over a dozen friends who are going up for parole eligibility, who I know to be among the best people I've ever met in my life and have done all the growing in the world, but keep getting told no for reasons that do not even match the things that are in their case jacket because there is not the capacity to give them real consideration. We support this bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. My name is Timothy Walker, and I'm a returning citizen to support the bill for the aforementioned reasons, and because it's very important to have a parole board that is composed of a professional group of individuals making very important decisions that affect public safety and the lives of incarcerated individuals. Having a holistic approach to each parole hearing will restore public trust in the parole process.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Maisie Osteen, and I'm an attorney at the Legal Aid Justice Center, and I represent people in their parole hearings often. We support this bill in its entirety. One piece that I just want to point out is the increasing to the 10-member will be very helpful because right now somebody's out and you need a unanimous vote of 5, then you just wait. So this will make the system run more efficiently. Thank you all.
Thank you. Those in person wishing to speak in opposition to, again, we're on either bill, Delegate Hopes 318, Delegate Williams 739. Those in opposition in person that would like to speak. Okay, those, now we will turn online. While we are taking testimony for both, I would like to say I would hope not to take final action on Delegate Williams' bill without him in the room. So if anybody wants to send the bat signal, but just let them know we're talking about both bills because they're almost exactly the same, except for the juvenile piece. So we'll turn online. If we could have 30 seconds for each person. There are many people signed up, and we'd love to hear from you. Let's start with Mr. Keener. Good morning.
Good morning, committee members. I'm Stephen Keener. I'm a professor of criminology at Christopher Newport University. I'm also the director of our Center for Crime, Equity, and Justice. I support this bill. We know from the research that individuals' brains aren't fully developed until their mid-20s, especially the parts of brain that are related directly to offending risk. We also know the best predictor of crime is age, and that once people get out of their mid-20s, the risk of offending plummets. So from a public safety perspective, from a taxpayer perspective, this bill makes sense, and providing a real pathway home not only aligns with the research, but I think it's the right thing to do. And I support this bill and thank the Patriot for
Thank you, Mr. Keener. Ms. Walters.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I echo the comments already said, but I'm Amy Walters, attorney at the Legal Aid Justice Center and director of the Youth Advocacy Clinic at the University of Virginia School of Law. To answer a question from the committee about who this would impact, I represent a client right now who committed an offense at 15 years old with an adult co-defendant. It was a robbery of a drug dealer gone wrong. He's now convicted of first-degree murder and facing over 25 years in adult prison. He would be somebody who would be eligible for juvenile parole after 20 years of incarceration. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ramsey, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Tina Ramsey. I'm a former corrections officer in Virginia. I want to say I support and echo the comments that were made previously. As a former corrections officer, I did come in contact with people who would be eligible under this. bill, and it's more of a norm than an exception. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Garrett, good morning.
Good morning. I'm the sister of someone who's been incarcerated as a juvenile, and I am in support of both bills. During my time at William & Mary, I've worked on several reports dealing with recidivism, as well as in my professional career working with people who are building parole systems. And I thank you for your consideration in this.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Sanchez.
Sorry, good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for having us. I'm the Advocate Director for the Virginia Coalition for the Fair Sentencing of Youth, and we solely support this bill, and we echo the words of Mr. Keener and those before us. Juveniles, they deserve a second chance and a second look.
Thank you. And then Nicola?
Good morning. My name is Nicola Nabel-Juris, and I'm the National Legal and Policy Director at the Campaign for the Fair Sentencing of Youth. CFSY is a national organization that advocates for policy solutions that keep communities safe while providing opportunities for children to demonstrate how they have grown and changed. Just want to reaffirm that we support this bill because of how it gives youth a meaningful opportunity for review. And want to note that we have a program called the Incarcerated Children's Advocacy Network, made up of over 300 individuals who serve lengthy time as children and are back in the community, and hope more members from Virginia may join soon.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Vivian.
Yes. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Vivian Lohr, and I definitely support HB 318. My son was incarcerated to juvenile. He was a juvenile at the age of 17, and he was sentenced to life with no parole. He has currently served 28 years. And I feel that this bill would definitely give him a more meaningful opportunity, as well as the other juvenile lifers that are affected and impacted by this. And I respectfully ask that you guys please consider to pass this bill. And thank you.
Thank you. Now the the two bills are back before the committee. Any questions or comments from the committee? Delegate Siebel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the patron for bringing this bill forward. I know we've heard it in the past, and I do believe it's time for this to finally be put into law. So I just wanted to take a moment to speak to the bill, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind.
Delegate Siebel.
To humanize this for a moment. I visited several folks who were incarcerated in Ottawa, many of which were sentenced as juveniles, and have been incarcerated ever since. And probably mid-40s at this point, and they one at least entered when he was 15, done everything that they needed to do. One in particular was a peer recovery specialist, and the idea is if I become a peer recovery specialist that I would be able to exemplify the skills needed to look good as I enter as I'm entering into parole hearings and asking for a second opportunity. So many of these folks are experiencing these parole hearings over and over again, but the parole board needs to change. It needs to be expanded. It needs to be professionalized. It needs to meet regularly. That's something I heard over and over again, that the meetings are canceled repeatedly. So I'm really looking forward to this bill passing so that we can make sure that those who were incarcerated as juveniles are now are given this second opportunity to be looked at, especially as they reach, as they reach older age. So I appreciate the bill, and I have a motion at the appropriate time, Mr. Chair.
In just a moment, we'll Delegate Weber.
Sorry, apologies. Mr. Chair, question for the patron.
Delegate Weber.
I'm trying to go through it because it's a fairly big piece of legislation. There are aspects of this bill that I like and aspects that I don't. But question for you: when we talk about the governor's appointees are I guess we're trying to professionalize that. Do those same are there criteria for the House and Senate appointees as well, or are those appointees just whoever the Speaker and the whoever chooses in the Senate? I don't care about the Senate, but whoever chooses the Senate, do they have any criteria as well?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I'd answer. I mean, it's in 53.1-134, reading the bill. All members of the board, it's line 23, all members of the board shall have significant professional experience working in criminal law, corrections, reentry, and community services or victim services. So that applies to every single parole board member. That's line 23 and 24.
All right, thank you,
Delegate
Mr. Chair.
Siebel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I move to report the substitute.
Motion's been made and seconded to report House Bill 318 as substituted. Members may please cast your vote. Clerk should close the roll. Bill reports with substitute 5-2. We will hold off. You're welcome. Thank you, Delegate Hope. We'll hold off on final action on Delegate Williams' bill, but we will be taking final action by the end of the meeting should he not show up. First, I'd like to, at the request of the patrons, I'd like to first strike from the docket House Bill 776. Do I have a motion for that?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Members, please cast your vote on the motion to strike 776 from the docket. Motion carries. 776 stricken from the docket. Next bill is 1397 at the request of the patron to be stricken from the docket. I have a motion. It's been moved and properly seconded. Members, please cast your vote. Motion carries. It's stricken from the docket. So 776 and 1397, if you're here for either of those bills or online, those at the request of the patrons are stricken from the docket. Next, we'll turn to Delegate Delaney.
Mr. Chair.
Delegate Webert.
Thank you. Upon sending out a bat signal to Delegate Williams, if I may make a motion to table House Bill 739.
There's a motion and properly seconded to gently lay on the table House Bill 739. Members, please cast your vote. Clerk shall close the roll. The bill is gently laid on the table, 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So first, Mr. Chair, I do have a substitute.
We have a substitute on House Bill 1233. And Council, would you like to report the differences in the substitute?
And I'm happy to describe them. I know we had a lot of kind of last minute
Yeah, well, if you
maneuvering,
wanna-
so that might actually.
Delegate Delaney, if you'd like to.
So the substitute, Mr. Chair, it clarifies that the Virginia Sexual and Domestic Violence Victims Fund, which is the purpose to provide relief to domestic violence and human trafficking victims. So we're adding human trafficking victims because of what we're trying to accomplish with this bill. We are adding human trafficking victims to this fund. The substitute also raises the current penalty from $100 imposed against traffickers and sex offenders to $1,000. And I'll go into more detail about the bill, but that is the general nature of the substitute.
Okay, the substitute for consideration is before us. Do we have a motion on it? Motion's been made and properly seconded. Without objection, the substitute is adopted. Delegate Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this bill creates a court fee that would be imposed on convicted traffickers, solicitors, and sex offenders. The fee amounts would go towards the Virginia Sexual and Domestic Violence Victim Fund, and we are including victims of trafficking in that fund because the nature of some of these crimes that we are adding this fee are directly correlated to human trafficking. Current law does not reflect the increased need for a higher financial fee against traffickers, solicitors, or sex offenders. Once convicted, many are only required to pay a small fee for their crimes. It's hardly a deterrent. It's an obscenely low fee for what this crime is and for what this fee does. This the fund that these fees would be directed to help fund our Virginia Sexual and Domestic Violence Victim Fund, and finding new revenue sources of funding is absolutely crucial, especially with federal cuts that have been happening that have been in the ballpark of $72 million, leading to nationwide funding shortages for support for the programs that assist our most vulnerable. So this bill levies a court fee against offenders of $1,000, and in addition to it would be in addition to other court fees, so it would be directly to the fund in support of the victim fund, and this fee will also help serve as a deterrent from individuals who are trafficking and soliciting victims and sexually abusing others, and provide the supplemental funding that would help with legal aid, law enforcement, protective services, and sexual assault healthcare services, that all to the benefit of victims.
Thank you, Delegate Delaney. Questions from the committee? We'll turn in person. Those wishing to speak in favor of the bill, and we'll put a minute on each individual, both for and against. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jacqueline Katzen. I'm Deputy Secretary of Public Safety for the Spanberger administration here on behalf of the governor. We are in support of this initiative, and there is also a Senate vehicle moving. We're continuing to work with the patrons to move this work forward. Thank you so much for your time. And
you're doing well until you mentioned the Senate, and then it all went down. I'm just kidding. Thank you so much for joining us. Others to be wishing to be heard in person. Those opposed to the bill in person.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Maisie Osteen. I'm an attorney at the Legal Aid Justice Center, and we oppose the vehicle of this bill. Obviously, funding the Virginia Sexual and Domestic Violence Victim Fund is incredibly important. However, this is a very unreliable source, and the costs are already staggering for people leaving incarceration. I just want to point three things out with this bill specifically. The charges that are highlighted in this bill result in significant jail time if people are convicted. So you won't ever see money on this until people are released, which is oftentimes decades later. If we truly believe in funding this fund, which is important, this isn't a way to do that. Additionally, as you all see in the language of the bill, those 13 enumerated code sections at the beginning are all representative of other fees and fines in the system, including thousands of dollars for counsel fees, including the fixed felony fee that would be applied here. And if you look 17.1-275.5, that then has another enumerated list of 19. Okay. And can I just say one more really quick thing? There's already a carve out for this fund under 16.1-69 that applies to every misdemeanor and traffic offense in the Commonwealth. Just want to highlight those. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning again, Chairman and members of the committee. I'm providing this testimony today on behalf of Emily King at the Fines and Fees Justice Center. The Fines and Fees Justice Center opposes HB 1233. Criminal legal fees are not fines. Fines are intended as punishment. Fees are solely designed to generate government revenue. It is my understanding that the intention of this bill is to effectively do both, raise revenue for the Victims Fund and create a punishment for individuals convicted with certain crimes. However, creating a new fee is not the way to achieve these outcomes. Fees are not a reliable source of revenue. They rise and fall with crime levels and depend on enough crime being committed to fund these critical services. While I understand the sentiment that these individuals should be held accountable for their actions, levying a fee does not punish individuals for the crime. It punishes them for being poor. And it is for all these reasons that we strongly urge this committee to vote against HB 1233. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Rasool, members of the committee, Taj Maynab for the Humanization Project. Love the goal. Think we need to have this funded, but we oppose the bill because we, again, like I said before, think the vehicle puts the onus in the wrong place. We think reliable, sustainable funding rather than funding that comes from fees that are hard to collect. 80% of people, when they have fees, that they can't afford pay nothing after incarceration. That's from some research that has been done on the subject. And also, I think that this means that funding then depends on more crimes occurring. And I don't feel like that's the direction we should go in funding this issue. So thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll turn online. We'll turn online for online testimony. Those wishing to speak in favor, we have first, I think Courtney is up.
Hi, good morning. My name is Courtney Destlet. I'm a survivor leader and elected member of the board of directors for the Virginia Coalition Against Human Trafficking. I myself was trafficked by a law enforcement officer from my freshman year through my senior year of high school. The only way I escaped was fleeing the state. My experience is the reason I also later became a sworn law enforcement investigator. I wanted to be the kind of change maker who recognized trafficking victims instead of criminalizing them. Human trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar criminal enterprise. A research paper recently published, Buyers Unmasked, by Rights for Girls in 2005 reported the following dynamics on high-frequency buyers. These men account for 75% of people purchasing sex. They are overwhelmingly middle-aged, white, married men who are making over $100,000 a year, paying more than $100 per sex act, at times upwards of $400.
Thank you.
Can I finish one last statement?
Very briefly, yes, please.
Yes. In 2024, another study revealed that nearly half of buyers, at 48%, knew at the time they purchased the act from the woman, man, or child, knew that that individual was being trafficked and performing sex not on their own volition. Thank you, and I am fully in support of the bill and respectfully ask that.
We'll turn to Lindsay Gray next.
Good morning, committee. My name is Lindsay Gray, and I'm here on behalf of both Safe House Project and for Virginia Coalition Against Human Trafficking. I am a survivor and have actually worked in maximum security youth and adolescent mental health facilities, not in Virginia, but I will say that I have firsthand seen what it looks like for youth coming out of situations and really desperately needing services. And also on the flip side, as a survivor, when victims move through, and even my own children going into the CAC, not CDC, the CAC, and they're not being available services. And I think that, a big piece to this is just offering them the ability to show up somewhere and know that they're going to be capable of getting the services that they need, whether they're in a rural county or locally. And we need to be able to provide that somehow.
Thank you.
This I think is a good option. So thank you guys for your time, and I appreciate it. And I hope you guys support.
Thank you so much. Patrick McKenna. Patrick, will come right back to you. Lauren.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Eason. I'm a licensed attorney with the Center for Global Justice at Regent University School of Law. We operate a pro bono human trafficking clinic where we represent survivors in vacatur petitions, and we are in support of this bill. We're also a part of the Virginia Coalition Against Human Trafficking. So we respectfully ask that this bill would pass for the reasons that have been stated. Thank you.
Thank you. And Patrick McKenna.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Patrick McKenna. I'm Executive Director of Just Free International, also an organizational member of the Virginia Coalition Against Human Trafficking. I appreciate the responses of those who are opposed to the bill, but I did want to echo the comments of Courtney Destlet earlier. The population that we're talking about here is not the population of poverty. We're talking about people who have significant disposable income. And that's one of the reasons they're helping fuel this industry and the victimization of men, women, and children. And the other thing to note here, in fact, that those other people that are being encompassed in this bill are those making thousands and thousands of dollars on the backs of victims. And so while I would normally be in their camp for the reasons they're stating, in this particular situation, I would say that we're not talking about people in poverty. We're talking about people who have profited greatly from this and or in a position that are to pay these fees without issue. There is one other thing I'd like to mention, and that is this does have a bit of a deterrent effect. For those who've never purchased but are considering to do so, one of the elements would keep them from thinking about it, going out to do so, would be a fine of $1,000 or more. And that is one of the reasons why this number was picked in addition. Thank you very much. And
thank you so much. House Bill 1233 is back before the committee. Delegate Webbard.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I guess question for the patron.
Delegate Webbard.
In regards to this fee, it's a court fee that's tacked on, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So it is a fee, and I don't know. Maybe I should let the delegate answer the question. I do want to comment on the fee versus fine.
No, please. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
So, Mr. Chair, it is a fee, and to kind of put a finer point on why it is a fee versus a fine, fines are directed to the literary fund. And so if we made this a fine, because we contemplated all of this, if we made this a fine, the funds, they would go to the literary fund. So by making it a fee and then having that fee directly go to the victim fund gives us the opportunity to divert the resources to where they're needed most and correlate most to the crimes.
Thank you.
Further question, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Webbard.
So I guess in regards to this being related to, I guess, some of the sexual offenses, is the reason you chose a fee because not all offenses end up in jail time?
So, Mr. Chair, choosing the fee, again, helps us direct the funds, I think, to where they're needed most by having that opportunity to not just have that go into that pool of the literary fund, but to direct it directly to the victim fund. But choosing the list of crimes, some of these sex offenders we do expect will go to prison for a very long time for their crimes. Many do not, particularly buyers of sex. When you are looking at the sentences for those who are convicted of solicitation, these are people who are not getting long sentences, but they are going out cash in hand, prepared to buy sex from trafficked individuals. And a $100 fee just is not a correct correlation to the severity of the harm that these individuals are doing. And so I think we're able to accomplish two different things with this bill. One is to have the potential for more funds diverted where they are needed most to support victims, but it is a deterrent effect to say that if you are intending to go out and purchase sex from someone, and the likelihood that that person either is a minor or was a minor when they were initially pulled into prostitution, you are exploiting another human being. You're exploiting them for sex, and a $100 penalty just isn't commensurate with the severity of the crime, and raising it to $1,000 would demonstrate, how serious we take the exploitation of others.
Thank you. Thank you. We would send this to appropriations should the committee act favorably. The committee operates by motion.
Mr. Chair, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I move to report with substitute and refer to appropriations.
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded to report and refer to appropriations. House Bill 1233. Members, please cast your vote. Clerk shall close the roll. Bill reports with substitute and refers to appropriations 7-0. Thank you, Delegate DeLay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee.
Thank you. Delegate Schmidt, good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I come before you with House Bill 1476. This is related to civilian review boards and independent police auditors. Currently, we're about 5-6 years into the General Assembly allowing localities to establish civilian review boards and police auditors. And during that time, it was brought to our attention that whether it's the actual police auditor or the members and staff of the civilian review board, that they lack the ability to get access to certain case records, specifically juvenile records and sexual assault records. So what this bill does is a bit of a technical cleanup to allow that body access to case records. And I want to expand on that a little bit. Now, we do need to move a substitute.
All right.
And I can talk also about the differences.
Seconded by Delegate Cousins. Substitute without objection. The substitute is before us. Delegate Schmidt.
Yeah. And briefly, I can talk about the differences between the original bill and the substitute. Most importantly, when it comes to who has access to the records that we're speaking of, the original bill, it was a little too narrow and limited. And we wanted to make sure that it captured all localities that have a police auditor particularly, or making sure that as more localities decide to opt in to a civilian review board or police auditor, that we don't have to go back to the code and say, oh, we forgot about this locality, or we forgot about this locality. So we wanted to make sure the language was broad enough to capture localities that opt in, but also limiting it so that these are not records that will be viewable to the public. They are not records that, all of the staff at, Richmond, my hometown, has a civilian review board. We do not want these records being discussed in open meetings. They're not going to go to everyone within the staff. This is limiting who has access, but also addressing the problem that was brought to our attention that if a case involves someone that was the victim of a particular crime, or if they were a juvenile at the time, if they make a complaint to a civilian review board, we're kind of at a loss. The civilian review board can't get access to the case files, or making sure that they get full review so that they can make recommendations about what corrective action, if there was misconduct by anyone, or if there was some sort of additional harm done. One of the important aspects of this to maintain privacy and make sure that we, as I said, these records are not discussed in open meetings. We also made sure that the civilian review boards and police auditors can go into, the civilian review boards can go into private session according to FOIA law so that they can review the case files and then go back into open session. So the bulk of the bill, the reason it's so thick is because the first part of the bill talks about the FOIA and adding civilian review boards to FOIA law so that they can go into a closed session for discussion. They would be subject to all the same laws, rules around FOIA, and then making sure that when it comes to viewing the confidential case records of juveniles and/or sexual assault cases, they're added to the other agencies and other departments that can review those case files. And of course, they're subject to the same disclosure. So
thank you. Thank you, Delegate Smith. Thank you for that. We'll bring it to the committee if there are questions. With no questions, we will turn to those who are in person wishing to speak in favor of the bill, and then you can line up right behind them for those wishing to speak opposed.
Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, Chris Lane with South Cliff Strategies on behalf of Arlington County. HB 1476 would simply enable localities that opted into civilian oversight boards and their staff to access the records they need to perform their duties. We have Arlington County Board Member Spain, who can speak to the value of this program, and Mummy Ibrahim, the county's independent police auditor, online to share their experience and answer any technical questions you may have. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Valerie Slater, Executive Director of Rise for Youth and the Virginia State Conference in AACP Criminal Justice Chair. And for the reasons you just heard and many others, we strongly support this bill. And thank the patron.
Thank you. Those in opposition, turning online. Those in favor, Mr. Spain, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of this esteemed committee. It is a great pleasure to bring greetings from Arlington County. I'm here briefly on behalf of my colleagues at the county board. You've heard about this bill, which is going to strengthen community trust and public confidence in law enforcement. by ensuring that we have meaningful, right, civilian oversight with appropriate, I would say, appropriate safeguards. And so there are records that we need access to that they're needed to hold systems accountable while protecting at the same time sensitive investigations and the victim's privacy. So Arlington County Board supports passage of this legislation, and we would hope that you do so as well. Again, good morning, and thank you for your time and attention.
Ms. Ibrahim, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and to all the members of the Public Safety Committee. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today. My name is Mami Ibrahim. I am the Civilian Oversight Director, the Independent Policing Auditor for Arlington County. I've been in the field of civilian oversight for 10 years, previously working in the Police Monitor's Office in New Orleans, Louisiana. I come to you today as the inaugural auditor in Arlington, Virginia. As you all may know, in 2021, Virginia passed legislation enabling civilian oversight in our state. And over the past few years, my county, as well as several other jurisdictions in the state of Virginia, have been working to form, and in some cases reform, their civilian oversight of law enforcement. What we seek to do with House Bill 1476 is to kind of build upon that and standardize some of the records access issues that a lot of our jurisdictions have been grappling with. The National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement has 13 principles for civilian oversight, effective civilian oversight, and one of those is unfettered access to records. What this would do would allow us to access records specifically as it pertains to any sort of incidents related to juveniles or victims of sexual assaults. It is certainly, I believe, our position and just the spirit of the work that we're doing here, that it was not meant for juveniles or victims of sexual assaults to be excluded from the ability to have their publicly generated complaint. So they would be filing a complaint to my office or to our respective police department, and we would have the ability to review their complaint if there's any sort of allegation of misconduct as it pertains to law enforcement handling of their case. So certainly we want them to be afforded the exact same rights and privileges as any other member of the community that files a complaint.
Thank you, Ms. Ibrahim. We appreciate your testimony today. Thank you so much. The bill is back before the committee. Delegate Webber.
Thank you. Question for the patron, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Webber.
Thank you. In regards to the juvenile issue that this bill tries to address, how many complaints have there been within the system, either in Richmond or Arlington, where a juvenile has had a complaint?
Mr. Chair, I would answer that unfortunately in Richmond, it's taking a couple of years for the Civilian Review Board to even get started. I would have to defer to maybe the experts on Arlington. We have these in, let's see, Virginia Beach, Charlottesville, Fairfax, Arlington, Alexandria, and so I don't know that they've been on board long enough to gather data on how many they are. I will say that when I worked for the Department of Juvenile Justice, it was often, juvenile justice is in its separate section of the code and it has separate rules, and it was often forgotten when the original, when a lot of original policy is passed, but perhaps we have someone else that can speak to just how often this happens.
Very briefly.
To our knowledge, we know we have 2 cases that could apply in this case. And if there's any more, feel free to defer to Ms. Ibrahim. She can speak a little bit more to any other additional caseload questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Delegate Webber.
Of the localities that the gentleman mentioned, how many of those are a police auditor versus a civilian board?
From my understanding, there's, sorry, Mr. Chair, to answer the question, from my understanding, 3 have independent police auditors in addition to their civilian review boards, and they're 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe, civilian review boards. Again, this is an opt-in option for localities that we gave them in 2021.
Thank you. Thank you. The bill is back before the committee. Committee operates by motion. Substituted. Motion made and probably seconded to report as substituted House Bill 1476. Members, please open the roll. Clerk, open the roll. Members, cast your vote. Clerk shall close the roll. Bill reports 4-2 with substitute to this Richmond area delegate who's carrying it for Arlington. Thank you so much.
Thank you, members.
I appreciate it. Delegate Zaire, good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I bring an enactment amendment to HB 680.
We have an amendment which adds an emergency clause. Do we have a motion? Motion's made, properly seconded to adopt the amendment without objection. The amendment is adopted. Delegate Zaire, very briefly on this administration bill.
I will be as quick as possible to get
you.
through this one. So HB 680 makes technical amendments, bottom line, to enable the Department of Forensic Science to use their new building. These amendments accommodate the upcoming relocation of DFS's central laboratory and ensure the uninterrupted functioning of the Forensic Science Board and the Scientific Advisory Committee. The reason for the amendment is they have a meeting coming up in April. They would like to be able to use their new building. But we have a problem in the code. It says specifically, quote, in the city of Richmond. So they would have to come back from Hanover down here to Richmond for their meeting unless we change this code.
All right. Are there those wishing to speak in favor of the bill? Those. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I am Linda Jackson, the Director of the Department of Forensic Science, and I appreciate Delegate Zaire carrying this bill so that we can, as we're moving in March, use our building to its fullest capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. Those in opposition? Seeing none online, the committee operates by motion.
Move to report.
Motion been made and properly seconded to report with amendment. That's what I heard Delegate Weber say. Members, please cast your vote. Clerk shall close the roll. Bill reports unanimously with amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do I get an award for the fastest presentation?
Almost. You have to compete with Delegate Bennett Parker. She is the winner here. Delegate Navarre, good morning.
I'll try to be just as quick.
All right.
Mr. Chair and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to present House Bill 1114, which ensures that Virginia's law enforcement officers receive up to 388 hours of paid military leave when called to federally funded military duty or training. Under current law, officers receive 21 work days or 168 hours. And once they exhaust that time, they must use their own vacation or personal time to meet required Guard and Reserve obligations. Many annual military training requirements exceed the current paid leave limit, leaving officers to choose between serving their country and protecting their financial stability. My bill fixes that. It guarantees paid leave for the full period of required military service so officers can meet both responsibilities without financial hardship. This is the same level of support already provided to our professional firefighters, and it brings law enforcement officers in line with that existing proven policy. This bill supports military readiness, strengthens our public safety workforce, and helps agencies retain trained, experienced officers. The fiscal impact statement confirms that this change does not create a direct cost to the state budget, as salaries are already funded. And while the policy applies to a limited number of officers, the impact is significant and ensures that those who serve our communities and our nation can do so confidently without sacrificing income or stability. I hope it will be the will of the committee to report this bill.
Thank you. We've got this fine bill that passed last year unanimously out of the House. Those who are in support, you can give a thumbs up. Those opposed, you can come forward.
Move to report.
Looking online, if you're in favor, please give a thumbs up. Okay, and the motion's been made and properly seconded by Delegate Weber and Delegate Anderson, seconding this very fine bill. Members, please cast your vote. Bill reports unanimously. Thank you for your great work.
Great, thank you very much.
Way to beat Zaire.
Yes.
Did I?
We think so. We think so. Good Delegate Kent, good morning. Thank you for your patience.
Good morning, committee. Thank you for the opportunity to present 874. It's reported that approximately 1 in 4 adult women and 1 in 4 adult men in the United States have been victims of severe domestic violence. And as we all have been told, knowledge is power. This bill seeks to provide transparency and a more complete and comprehensive database of the most concerning domestic violence offenses based on an escalation of violence. HB 874 will direct the Superintendent of State Police to establish a domestic violence and sexual assault conviction database. The database will include individuals who have been convicted twice, which is very intentional, of very specific domestic or sexual assault offenses involving household members and intimate partners, using the definition of household members and, as we defined in the bill, of intimate partners. The current public list available to citizens does not incorporate all jurisdictions across the state and can be difficult to confirm based on the way that information is described. This database would create a platform that's more detailed, more defined, more accessible to folks that may not be attorneys or court staff that are seeking information to protect themselves or a loved one from a recidivist violent offender that have been doubly convicted. The bill also seeks to balance safeguards with those that have fully completed their time by allowing them to be removed from the database. The severity of domestic violence, crimes against household members and intimate partners is especially personal and violent, which is why we believe that creating a centralized, efficient database would be valuable for public safety. In fact, this topic is really not new to Virginia and has moved forward in a lot of other states recently to have the conversation. We started this conversation at least 14 years ago in Virginia with the Crime Commission. And I think it's just important to continue the conversation and to figure out a way that we can streamline a platform to protect the public and information that's already available, but maybe just not as transparent as it could be. This is supported by the Virginia Sexual and Domestic Violence Action Alliance. I've worked with them on this legislation, and I just appreciate the time to continue the conversation.
Thank you, Delegate Kent. Questions from the committee? We will turn to in-person testimony. Those wishing to speak in person in favor of the bill, please come forward. Those who are in opposition, please come forward. We will turn online if there is any testimony online. Back before the committee, are there questions from the committee? Does.
Mr. Chair.
Delegate Webert.
I would move to report and refer to appropriations.
Motion made and properly seconded to report and refer to appropriations, House Bill 874. Members, please cast your vote. Clerk shall close the roll. Bill reports and refers to appropriations.
Thank you, committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Tata, thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a substitute, and if council could explain it, there are 2 parts of it, I believe.
We'll have council explain it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The substitute adds subsection C to the toward the end of the bill. It adds subsection C stating that any prisoner eligible for conditional release pursuant to this section that is serving a sentence for conviction of any of the offenses listed in subsection B shall only be eligible for review once every 10 years. Well, actually, that was the biggest change. It also got rid of some of the offenses, too, that were laid out in subsection B.
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chair.
it narrows the scope to just the most heinous crimes, felonies.
Okay, Delegate Tata. So we have a substitute that is before us. Delegate Webert. You have a motion on the substitute.
Move the substitute.
Delegate Hamilton seconds that. All those in favor, without objection, the substitute is before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Chairman, HB 1326, also known as Lexi's Law, will close the loophole that allows the most violent offenders to be considered for geriatric early release, having served only a fraction of their sentence. This legislation is named for Lexi Walters, a young woman in Virginia Beach who was sexually assaulted, tortured, and brutally murdered by James Richard King in 2020. In 2025, King was sentenced to 2 life terms for his heinous crimes. Because he was 72 and had served 5 years of his term, counting the pretrial detention, he met the statutory requirements for release. The parole board must consider any 65-year-old prisoner who has served 5 years or 60-year-old who has served 10 years. If you commit the most violent felonies, your age should not be a get-out-of-jail-free card. We requested a report from the Department of Corrections, and since 2017, 241 inmates were granted geriatric release. 145 of these were violent offenders, 31 for murder, 21 for abduction, 10 for rape, 74 for robbery. These are not just numbers, though. Clinton Jacobs abducted, raped, and forcibly sodomized a 13-year-old girl and was sentenced to 70 years in prison. He was released in 2020 after serving less than half his sentence, and he's already back in prison. This is not a partisan issue. It's about grieving victims who deserve to know that those who harm their loved ones will serve their sentences. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there questions from the committee? Turning to any in-person testimony. We'll have a minute for each person that would like to speak. Please feel free to come on up.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Marie Jones. Lexi Walters was my only sister, my best friend, and my roommate. When the criminal James Richard King was in his 40s, he tortured and beat to death a woman in Ohio. He served 20 years and then moved to Virginia Beach. At the age of 65, he tortured another woman and served 1 year in 2018. At 67, he sexually tortured and beat my sister to death. He was sentenced to 2 life terms in February of last year. Just months later, I received an email that he was up for geriatric parole. I am fighting with other victims, families, and citizens within the Commonwealth to keep the most dangerous of criminals from being considered for geriatric parole. They should not have the opportunity to re-victimize us as victims and families through the geriatric process every 1 to 3 years. They should not be considered for the possibility to reoffend, kill, rape, and torture you, your loved ones, or anyone else. I support Lexi's Law, House Bill 1326, and I beg you to help keep our Commonwealth safe and vote yes.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and the committee. My name is Ashley Carpenter-Waite. I am a survivor who lives in Richmond, Virginia. So I'm representing those who are survivors of heinous crimes such as rape and sexual assault. In 2008, my life was changed forever by James Samuel Williams, a stranger in a mask. He is a serial rapist convicted and charged with multiple life sentences, including stalking, rape, sexual battery, abduction with intent to defile, forcible sodomy, attempted robbery, object sexual penetration, and rape of a minor from another trial. He was tried in 4 different trials throughout the Commonwealth and District of Columbia, where he escalated to using a knife on his last victim. James Williams has been up for geriatric parole 4 times since 2021. I am the only survivor who speaks with the parole board. So I feel that it's my duty to keep him in prison. So consistently, it brings up old emotions and trauma. I have a family, I have children, and I'm here today talking about this. So I ask, why is age a factor for rehabilitation? The age of 60 or 65 is not old. It is for Medicare and retirement. This bill changes the law to those who have committed the most heinous crimes. Please support this bill. Thank you for your time, committee.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and the committee. My name is Georgianne Allen. My brother was murdered in 1994. He was shot in the chest with a sawed-off shotgun. He received the man that did this received 168 years, but he goes up parole every year since 2006. I have to fight this every year. He shot my brother in the chest, and it took my mother away from me. She died of a broken heart. He does not deserve to walk this earth. He needs to stay in that penitentiary in Greensville for the rest of his life. I don't want him walking this earth. He could hurt someone else. It doesn't matter about his age. He needs to stay in, and I support this bill.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Those in opposition to the bill, please come forward.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Maisie Osteen from the Legal Aid Justice Center. And first, just to say, I'm so sorry, and I recognize that these are incredible traumas that people are reliving, and I'm so sorry that they have to be here, and glad that the people that have perpetrated those crimes are still remain in prison. According to the DOC, a total of 1,612 inmates were considered for geriatric release during FY23 and FY24. Of those considered in that 2-year period, 13 inmates were released. This has a real impact, and it's not just hypothetical. We represent people on parole, and oftentimes that vehicle is geriatric release. The 2 individuals that I'm thinking about right now, one is wheelchair bound, one is quadriplegic and has no use of anything beyond below their neck and eat through a feeding tube. This bill would they would be categorically barred under this bill. And I'll say in the instances of what occurred, one, after long-standing domestic assault, was involved in murder of her abuser, and the other was a bank robbery where no one was injured. Those individuals, there's a whole spectrum, and so that's why the discretion is so important. Thank you.
Thank you. We will turn, please come forward.
Taj Mayenheft with the Humanization Project. We oppose the bill simply for the reasons that were stated by Ms. Osteen and the general premise that we cannot make laws to make ineligible all people's redemption because a few have not yet earned it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll turn online for those wishing to speak in favor or to the bill. Let's go to first Ms. Smith.
Yes, hello. My name is Carla Smith. I'm here in favor of this bill. My oldest son was murdered on Mother's Day of 2013. The person that killed him happened to be a family member. It was purposely done. However, he only received 18 years, and he was a geriatric at the time with health problems when he did this. He knew what he was doing. He not only did that, he also put 5 other people at danger by shooting randomly in the backyard. My son was taken from us at the prime of his life. He was 19 years old. And I do support this bill because I do believe that anybody that purposely takes a life should spend the rest of their life in jail. I understand that there's rehabilitation, but he has no reason to be out on the streets because he is a danger to everyone if he is.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Ms. Ramsey, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Tina Ramsey, former corrections officer. I just want to say that I echo what Taj and the other in opposition said. I don't think everyone should be punished for the exceptions. I opposed.
Thank you. Tracy Concha, if you would like to speak, we would need you to come on camera.
I'm having problems with my camera. I completely apologize, but please let me speak, sir, please.
Welcome. You have 1 minute. We'll make an exception for you.
Thank you. I'm so thankful. My name is Tracy Concha. I live in Roanoke, Virginia. I'm the mother of a victim who was sexually abused by her father, my husband. He has been convicted of 29 sex crimes against our daughter, including 5 rapes. In 2011, he was sentenced to 5 life sentences and 472 years. He was told he had to serve 5 years for each of the 5 life sentences and suspended 472. He violated the sentencing by continually trying to contact myself and my son, which unsuspended 5 years to give him 30 years to serve. At this time, he's supposed to be released in 2041 at the age of 73, and we dread the thought of that. And we would absolutely be crushed if he were to be still let out any second sooner. Our family should be more important than him. We have spent 15 years trying to rebuild our lives. And just because someone is older does not mean that they have changed. He is an evil human, and anyone who could do the things that he has done is evil, no matter how old they are. Just because you're geriatric does not mean that you're incapable of causing more pain. There are certain crimes that are not re-educatable, or counseling that can get past it is a deep-seated failure of their own mind and mental illness. They are not the victims. The victims are out here. Please protect our family. I work as a trauma and ER nurse, and I work with people all the time who have been inflicted of crimes against them by people who are over the age of 65.
Thank you.
Just because, as I keep saying, I just beg you, keep our people in society safe.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could I just say one thing?
Delegate Tatum.
I just want to make 2 quick points. We understand that there are a lot of people that don't have these heinous crimes, and to the point that letting those people out, it's different. And there's a different statute that addresses the medical parole. So I just want to be clear, we're talking about a specific group of heinous criminals. Criminals who've done heinous crimes. Thank you.
Thank you. And to everyone who's come forward and to share your testimony, thank you so much for all of that. And we wanted to make sure all of that was heard. The substitute, so let me just explain to make sure, I know you all hear this in courts all the time. The substitute that is before us, as you'll see in the second enactment clause, has something called the icebox language. And the Courts of Justice and Public Safety Committees both hear a variety of bills that are then put in something called the icebox because they have a proposed increase in the cost to the Commonwealth, because you're going to hold somebody further in this case, in prison. And so what happens is we hear all of these bills out, and then at the very end, the full committee then determines which bills we can pay for. The Appropriations Committee then lets us know, hey, based upon the amount of money that is assigned to let some of these bills out that would cause an increase in imprisonment, would then have a cost associated with it. So at this juncture, this is in the icebox, and you see the language, and it says in the second enactment clause that there's a minimum fiscal impact of $50,000, and the committee will hold it in its pocket until the very end, when we are told from the Appropriations Committee how much we're allowed to spend. So there would be no further action on this bill today. It will remain in the bosom of the committee, and then we will take final action once Appropriations lets us know about that. Are there further questions or thoughts from the committee? If not, we would like to thank Delegate Tata and all those who came to testify on behalf of the bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Delegate Cherry, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for your patience.
Yes, sir. Trying to be 2 places at once this morning, so I appreciate that. Would you like to take up 1140 or 1142 first?
1140 is fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I believe we have some line amendments for this that were proposed by some of the law enforcement community and Commonwealth attorneys.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and properly seconded without objection. The amendments are adopted. Delegate Cherry, 1140.
And if you would like to know what the technical amendments are, I'm happy to have staff report those, or I can continue with the substance of the bill.
You can continue on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. What House Bill 1140 does is directs DCJS to develop guidelines around using confidential informants. It's come to light through some very tragic situations that we've had people that were being used as confidential informants with a history of drug use that have been put back into those situations and circumstances and have access to those substances that they were abusing, and yet law enforcement didn't necessarily pull them out of those CI roles, didn't necessarily protect those individuals that they were using as confidential informants. I do believe I have a witness online who was a constituent who is the impetus of the bill. If she's there, if we could hear her, that would be awesome. I think that's Ms. Watson.
Yes, so we'll defer to that first. That's your request. So Ms. Watson, welcome. You've got about a minute. Please share your testimony. We'll need to bring you off mute.
How about now?
Gotcha. Good morning.
Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Okay. Members of the General Assembly, thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Donna Watson, and I am here as a mother whose son can no longer speak for himself. My son, Troy, died from a fentanyl poisoning while being a confidential informant. The judge placed my son on probation for his own drug use from a car accident. He had been clean for several months, and he fell back one day in a relapse, which is very common for recovery. And he was told he was going to be now a confidential informant. Anyway, during the time that he was a confidential informant for 3 months, he started testing dirty with drugs repeatedly. He even checked himself into a rehab. I want to be clear. I support law enforcement, and I understand that confidential informants can be very important. This is not about bashing the police. This is about someone's life. Someone's life should never have been treated as expendable. The bill does not take tools away from law enforcement. It draws a clear line between investigation and exploitation. The Troy bill, which is the House Bill 1140, is a common sense bill. It just says that anyone who has been placed on probation for using drugs can't be a confidential informant. There are already guidelines set in place from the Attorney General's office, but no one followed those. That's why this bill is so important, and we have to enforce it. The Troy bill does not fix everything. It adds one clear, enforceable guardrail where none existed. My son is gone, but the choices that led to his death are still happening today. If the Troy bill, House Bill 1140, had been in place, my son would be alive today. I am begging you as a mother to please pass the Troy bill so no other family has to be where I am today. This is a common sense bill, and it needs to happen. And I appreciate you letting me speak today, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your testimony. Those wishing to speak in favor of the bill, please come forward. Those in opposition to the bill. Do we have further individuals online wishing to speak to the bill? And then we will come back before the committee. Should the committee act favorably upon the bill, it would be referred to appropriations.
Move to report and refer.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded to report and refer to appropriations House Bill 1140. Members, please. As amended.
As amended, sorry.
That's what I heard you say.
Yes, yes you did.
Members, please cast your vote. Bill reports and refers as amended to appropriations, 7-0. Thank you, Delegate Cherry. Now we're on to House Bill 1142.
And Mr. Chairman, I would have a substitute as well for this bill.
Move the substitute.
Second.
Without objection, the substitute for 1142 is before us. Delegate Cherry.
Mr. Chairman, I was watching online. I was in another committee. I know there was a race to see how quickly we could get through these. Since I'm on my second bill, I probably can't get to the record, but let's see how quickly we can at least do this one. You heard this bill last week. There was wide support for this bill. There was one objection from the courts in the implementation of it. They offered some substitute language, which is what's before you now. The courts have found that they are satisfied with this bill, and I don't think they would have objection to it.
So OES, we're thumbs up on the new language. Anybody have anything new that they want to add? If not, we have the substituted language that is before us on 1142 that would report and would also go to appropriations should we report favorably on House Bill 1142 with substitute.
Move to report with substitute and refer to appropriations.
Motion's been made and properly seconded to report and refer with substitute House Bill 1142. Members, cast your vote. And for those watching on, we had a full hearing on this last week. Okay, bill reports and refers. Thank you, Delegate Cherry.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Keys-Gamarra, good morning. You've had a ride this morning, but you're safe here. So
I am safely here. Thank you so much for your patience and accommodations. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, HB 1392 is designed to create uniformity in providing access for attorneys to have consultation with their clients in courthouses, local correctional facility operations. This bill addresses, well, before I do that, I'd like to say there was a 2020 study that and we don't have anything more recent, but at that time, and based upon the information I have been receiving, the various locations have discretion with respect to how they provide access. So in some instances, the contact with one's attorney would be recorded, but no charges. In some instances, it would not be recorded, but there would be a fee. The attorney and or the client would have to pay, et cetera, and there is no uniformity. This bill seeks to provide that uniformity in 4 different ways. Oh, I'm sorry. First, I need to move the line amendment.
motion made and properly seconded without objection. The bill is amended.
Thank you. All right. So if I can get to my bill here, there are 4 specific places on line 16 through 19. It points out, it places parameters around attorneys who may misuse their bar card, because I know that there was some concern there, and makes it a misdemeanor to do so. Currently, there is no law specific to this particular infraction. The second change occurs at lines 57 through 61. And this is where we establish sufficient opportunities to conduct confidential visits with clients in local, regional, and community correctional facilities. The third place is lines 71 through 76. And this allows attorneys to enter the courthouse in the same manner as courthouse employees and law enforcement. And then the fourth place is line 78 through 80, which simply states that the communication has to be confidential. I hope it is the will of this committee to report this, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. So now the bill is back before the committee. Are there questions from the committee? And we now will turn to in-person testimony. Those in favor of the bill come forward. Those who are in opposition, we will turn online. Ms. Ramsey, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Tina Ramsey. I'm just speaking from the standpoint of a family member who's had issues being able to visit with his attorney. I'm in support of this bill.
Okay. Now, are there questions from the committee?
Mr. Chair, I move to report with the, is it amendments?
Let me understand. Sorry, I don't have the substitute posting on mine. Can you tell me which lines we struck the 77 through 80, the last section?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. We struck all of lines 78, 79, and 80. We inserted the following language. When a sheriff or jail superintendent who operates a local correctional facility provides a telephonic, electronic, or web-based communication system for prisoners, such systems shall include a confidential means for a prisoner to communicate with his attorney at regular and reasonable times. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. I have a question, Delegate Keys-Gamarra. On the first part, we had a question about, is there instance where someone is presenting their bar card and was trying to get in? Is that what?
I did receive a report to that effect.
And so that's what the issue is. They were trying to fraudulently.
Well, there were two instances I have heard about. One was that the bar card itself was no longer valid, and two was that they were bringing improper things into the court. And this bill tries to provide uniform restrictions for that as well.
Okay, great. All right, so the motion's been made and properly seconded from Delegate Seabold. And someone seconded it. Bill is up for discussion. Delegate Webert.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm gonna vote no simply because I'm still trying to wrap my brain around the bill. So I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Happy to chat.
Yeah. Please.
Yes. Members, please cast your vote. Clerk, please close the roll. Bill reports with amendments 5-2.
Thank you. And again, thank you for your patience.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you. With that, I believe that completes our docket for today. Delegate Seabold.
Move to adjourn.
Motion's been made, properly seconded. Without objection, we stand adjourned. Thank you so much to the committee.